Sure.
So, Mike, you're a certified master inspector, right?
Yes.
Explain what that is exactly.
So being a certified master inspector is with the INTERNACHI, which stands for the National Association of Certified Home Inspectors. And it basically indicates that you have over 1,000 hours in the field doing home inspections. But prior to doing inspections, I have already 10 plus years of experience in the construction industry. So whenever I'm talking to a client, when I'm first meeting them at the house, I always let them know that just to give them additional peace of mind.
So you've been in this business for 10 plus years or
I've been in the construction industry for over 10 years, but
I
as a
see.
home inspector, this November is actually my fifth year in business.
Fifth year. Okay.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to get into the inspection business?
Well, it kind of already aligned with what I'm good at. I feel like one is my background in construction. Networking for me is easy. Social media for me is kind of, it's very easy to post content, branding and marketing. And, just being a people's person, I felt like just already aligned with things that I don't consider work.
Right. So how did the construction business translate into your business now? What is the relationship?
So a buddy of mine was a part-time home inspector and he mentioned it and I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? It has to do everything with construction, obviously, with building houses, materials, and I just thought of it long term because for those who may not know, being a union carpenter, it's a very labor intense job. And I just didn't see myself doing that long term. Just coming home tired every day, just from the manual labor. And it was very taxing on your body over, a long haul.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much as tiring as a job gets. I have a friend who's a welder, and
Yeah.
it's pretty much the same thing. So were you when you switched over? What obviously it was less taxing on your body. Was it a pay increase or a pay decrease?
I wouldn't say the first year because as you can imagine, every business that you're especially mine from the ground up, I had to put myself out there and make sure that I'm networking with the right people, doing the right job, because obviously if you're not servicing people and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, that word will spread and you're not going to last long. And that's in any industry. But I'd say my second year was when I built a six-figure business. But I
Interesting.
put but I put in a lot of time in, like a lot of networking, a lot of following up with people, catering to relationships, and if I could be transparent as far as numbers go, right? Let's say, when I was a union carpenter working a full, 40-hour work week. Now that's including the Long Island Railroad, commuting from the 5 a.m. train from Baldwin, just that whole lifestyle.
Yep.
I was bringing home maybe about $1,100 per week after taxes,
Okay.
and this was as a full book journeyman, not as an apprentice, right? I was doing that per week. Now, the average home inspection, give or take, is approximately $600. You do two home inspections in one day without killing yourself. You just made more than what you used to in a full 40-hour work week. So
Interesting.
you do the math, you know?
Right, but let's dive back into your first year because you said your first year was rough. You build and that your job is commission based, right?
Not that it's commission based, it's more every time you render a service, you get paid. So yeah, I don't know if it's considered commission based in a sense, but it's you get paid per inspection.
Right.
And the first year, I mean, once I decided to take the course, like I knew there was no turning back. So I kind of already projected that I'm gonna build this thing out where like I don't have to rely on construction anymore. So
Right. But let's talk about the first year because the first year is always the hardest. It's the same thing with real
always,
estate, like real estate.
yeah,
The first year is always the hardest. Same thing with all the other businesses that I've
yeah.
been into. So tell us about your first year. Like, what was it really slow? Tell us about that year.
The first year, ironically, was when COVID hit.
Oh,
So my first year was strange because I was only licensed for a couple months, and then the lockdown happened,
Right.
and then we couldn't work, and then once the market opened up, then the floodgates opened, and then everyone and their mother was buying houses. So that like COVID opening up was me like going into my second year already, and that the market opening up kind of just exploded my business. But um, I would say the first year, yeah, I want to say it was slow, but for me, it wasn't only because I put the work in, like I was out there open houses every weekend, networking events 3 to 4 nights per week. And just like anything in life, you get what you put into it.
Well, also, I feel like you kind of got in pretty much at the perfect time because COVID houses were flying, like you said. So
Yeah.
isn't that kind of the perfect time to start?
For me, it was, yeah. And it got to a point where I was working insane hours. I was burning out because during that COVID period, every single call that I received, it was an emergency. Mike, we need you today. Otherwise, this whole family's going to lose their dream home. Like every call was this pressure of like, if you don't do it, this poor family's going to lose this house.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
It,
crazy. But it still wasn't
yeah.
as hard as construction.
No, definitely not. And it wasn't as lucrative.
Right, constructing that's pretty much like as hard as a job gets, you know. I've
Yeah.
spoken to many construction workers and welders, and they always
Yeah.
it's really bad for your body, those jobs. Like that's this type of jobs if you go in, you got to get out, you know,
Yeah.
like because you if you stay on that job, you're gonna hurt yourself really bad. So Mike, walk us through a normal day in your shoes. What time do you wake up? Coffee or tea? What kind of coffee or tea? Walk us through a normal day.
So it's funny. My I used to have two alarm clocks, but now I just have one.
Uh-huh.
My alarm clock goes off at 10 to 4. So by that time at 3:50, I'm waking up and I try to read for like a half an hour. So
Okay.
around 4:15, 4:20-ish is when I have my breakfast.
Well,
And then yeah, and then I try to enter the gym by like 5 a.m. So by five
why do you wake up so early?
Well, because I was a union carpenter, that was my lifestyle for 10 years anyway. So I'm so used to waking up like any guy in construction, their body's just accustomed to being up at that time anyway.
So you must
And
go to
that
sleep early.
yeah, I try to be in bed by 10.
It's pretty
But
early.
yeah, and I'm just a big believer in when you wake up early, it just eliminates any excuse of not having enough time, you know?
Right, right.
So yeah, so then by 5 a.m. between 5:15, I'm working out for maybe like an hour, hour and a half or so. I get back home, make breakfast, probably around like 7-ish, give or take. Um, and my day varies every day. It's either I'm double booked during home inspections, I'm working from home, I'm at networking events, I'm shooting content. And that's what I love about home inspections. It's never the same day. I'm not sitting at a desk every single day doing the same tasks, you know?
Yeah, I mean you're all over. Do you do all of Long Island? Do you do this
Yeah.
for your city too?
I've done inspections in the boroughs too. I just personally don't go to Staten Island anymore or the Bronx. It's too
Too
far.
far. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you do inspections, you go by yourself, right?
Mhm.
And then walk us through that process of inspecting. Walk us through that process.
I usually show up probably about 45 minutes earlier than the scheduled time to get a head start on the roof and the exterior.
And they're okay
Just
with
so,
that? The homeowner.
yeah, yeah, well, I usually just show up at that point. I mean, if I'm already there, they're not going to say no, obviously. But um, I show up, I knock on the door, I tell them that I am here earlier just to get a head start on the outside first. They say no problem. So by the time my clients arrive, I just save them 45 minutes at least, and the realtors too. And then at the end of the inspection, I take my clients back outside and I give them the verbal summary, like the top of the list items, and then they'll have the written report within 24 hours, give or take.
And what are like the most common things or the most common flaws?
I would say, well, I'm also a licensed mold assessor, so I tell them that too. I say, listen, I am a licensed mold assessor, so if you wanted air quality samples taken, if you wanted cotton swabs, taken of certain areas of concern, you do have that option with us. It's not mandatory, but I always give them options, you know. And speaking of options, I'm actually getting certified to do asbestos as well. So that's another thing I'm gonna be adding to our services. But yeah, you know, we checked for roof leaks, foundation issues,
Smoke alarms.
mold, that too, termite damage. You know, we check the heating system, cooling system. A home inspection is it's pretty thorough
How many ripped out smoke alarms do you see?
all the time, all the time.
I did it
It's
to mine
mind-boggling.
because, but I think it was like my first week I moved into this car, but it went off for no reason, so I had
Yeah,
to rip it off.
yeah.
What do we do about that if it just goes off for no reason? What do we do?
Well, there must be a reason. Either you're cooking or it's just malfunctioning. I mean, or the battery's dying and then it just spontaneously beeps nonstop. Like every 2 minutes or so, you just hear a beep and then a beep, and until you replace that battery, it won't stop. So that
Yeah,
could be it too.
I think with me it was a malfunction. So then obviously, you tell them about that, but
Of course.
a seller can still sell their home with that technically, right?
They can supply battery operated detectors during the final walkthrough, but I always recommend getting them hardwired. That does not mean the seller has to provide hardwired detectors, but because batteries die, right? So I always think of a worst case scenario of the family going on vacation for a whole week. They go to Disney World, you know, let's say, and the batteries die while they're away, and then they come back home not even knowing that. So the batteries should always be the backup option. In case the house loses power, that's when the batteries should kick on.
Right, right. So Mike, what is your favorite thing about being an inspector?
It's always a different day, different people, different location.
And you like that break in monotony.
You
You
have to,
tired.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no cap on how big I can grow my business.
And
There's no limit.
you're your own boss, correct?
Correct.
So
Yep.
that would be my favorite thing, the fact that there's no boss.
Well, yeah, well, I like to travel too. So I've backpacked through Europe twice already. I've been to several countries, and the best part about it is that I don't have to request time. I don't have to request approval from anyone.
Yeah.
I just book my flights and go.
Yeah, for a sick day, for a vacation day, you don't
That's
gotta.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, I was a school safety officer for 10 years, and we had to fill out this form called a 28 every time we needed to take a vacation. And the only downside is no more paid vacations, right? You don't have paid vacations or paid holidays.
correct. But I'm not the only inspector under my company. So, when I'm traveling, that doesn't mean the business stops.
But so wait, do you have employees?
Yes.
How many employees do you have?
As of now, I have another home inspector, but I'm going to be in the process of hiring a second one probably in the following months to come.
Interesting. So Hyperfocus is your company.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm assuming that your plan is to gain as many employees as possible over time.
Actually, no, it's not. I want to keep it tight niche. I don't want to be the home inspection company that has 15 people running around, and then I feel like in this line of work, the bigger you get, the harder it is to get a tight grip on the quality of your inspections.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You want to keep it small. Interesting.
Yeah.
But what isn't it more money if you got more employees?
Yeah, but what I want to grow to be big is I'm gonna start coaching home inspectors. Like I'm gonna be coaching up and coming home inspectors. I want to take that platform nationwide. That's my ultimate goal.
Oh, that's your long-term plan.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, Mike, what is your least favorite thing about being an inspector?
When I have to get into a crawl space that's like a tight space and
Oh,
and there's like spiders down there. There's plumbing leaks and stuff. That's when it's not fun.
yeah. I mean, I'm a little bit cautious. I mean, that's because what happens if you get stuck? That seems like a pretty dangerous situation to
Well,
me.
I've never been stuck, knock on wood, or during the summertime when I have to go up in the attic and it's like 150 degrees. That's when it's not, and I have to crawl through the entire span of the house of the attic.
Oh
That
man.
that's when it's not fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds terrible to me, man. So Mike, where do you get your leads from?
All word of mouth. Everything word of mouth. I
Referral.
don't correct. I don't pay for Google SEO keywords and ads on I don't do any of that. I do utilize social media obviously, but that's all just a reoccurring business from the relationships I have.
Interesting. But in the first year, was it still that way, word of mouth, or were you like cold calling? Like what were you in
It's
the first?
always my first year I was showing up to open houses a lot and networking events. So
Interesting.
yeah, both of those definitely helped me build my business.
Like real estate events.
Yeah.
So you never had to like cold call or door knock, any of that.
Nope.
Interesting. So Mike, tell us about one unforgettable experience you've had in your career, if you have any.
I have many. Good or bad?
Could either one, either one.
I gotta think. That's a good question. I'm trying to think of. I would say, you know what? A good one. What's the question again? A
One
most,
unforgettable experience.
yeah. So I would say one of them, a good one, was when I was chosen to be on a panel with Brian Karp and the Handsome Home Buyer, which
Oh,
are
nice.
two titans, two top people, and I have to give credit to Peter Grosso with Remax integrity. I believe Peter made that happen for me, but just being on a panel speaking with these top people who I look up to, a lot of people look up to, that's something that I'll never forget.
When was this?
This was probably my second or third year in business,
The handsome
give or
home
take.
buyer is an investor, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched him on YouTube before.
Yeah.
So Mike, approximately how much per month do you spend into your business?
I mean, I have hard costs like
Like top,
insurance.
sorry.
I I have hard costs like insurance, gas for traveling, things that um I pay for my inspection software. But to be honest, it's the hard costs are pretty lean. It's not if I had to guess right now, probably you called me off guard with this one. Let me try to if I had to guess off the top of my head, probably like $2,000 a month.
Oh
Maybe
wow, that,
maybe
that that's more than I thought. What is the number one cost?
it's a bunch of small things. It's not one big cost, but I would say between gas, insurance for my company, I pay this app that takes all my business calls and things like that. It sets up an automated text. I have CRMs like video follow, like I have software and systems in place that I pay for monthly just because I'm at a point in my career now where I outsource and I automate the admin task now at this point. So that comes with a price, obviously.
Yeah, that's interesting because you spend more than some realtors, but obviously you get all of that money back. And what's
Yeah,
good about your job is you don't have to worry about AI taking out your job anytime soon. If
never.
if so, maybe 100 years from now, but
Yeah,
anytime soon. Uh,
exactly.
Mike, do you view other inspectors as competition?
I made the mistake of doing that early on, and I ended up viewing one inspector in particular, and I've openly said this because I want people to learn from my mistake.
Uh-huh.
And ironically, we're actually really cool now. So,
So
but
in the beginning, you were kind of like enemies in a way.
yeah, just because I had to get over the fact that realtors have multiple inspectors that they use and they work with. And at that time, one of my number one realtors started using this person, and I viewed it as like they were taking my business. But it's just the name of the business. Like when I started, I was everyone's backup inspector. When their main inspectors were too busy, I would come in as their backup, but then I slowly started to like take over a little bit.
So
So
I'm sure that some people view you as competition now.
they probably, yeah. It's funny because I was at a wedding once a couple years ago, and there was another home inspector there who I didn't know. And I actually respect this guy, but he told me straight up, he's like, you know what? I didn't like you at first because I saw you with all the realtors that I was trying to work with, and you were with all of them. And we laughed about it, but I respect the fact that he told me to my face that he didn't like me. Because there's people that don't like you, but they smile in your face, right? I'd rather be told up front. I respect that a lot more.
Even though it was in the past when he
Yeah,
told
oh
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So Mike, what separates you from other inspectors?
I would say one is my experience. And I'm not knocking anyone that is getting into the business that does not have a construction background, but I feel like having that background for over 10 years, it just gives me more experience and more peace of mind that I could provide for my clients. I would say our turnaround time for the reports. Most important, I'd say the quality of the inspection itself, because I've read other inspection reports and it doesn't really go into detail on what they're finding, you know? Like it's very vague and I don't think it's too helpful for first-time home buyers.
Interesting. Right. So there's a few th different things.
Yeah,
Mike, do you do commercial real estate as well?
absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and what is the difference between working commercial and working residential? What's the difference?
It's funny because people think that there's a difference, but it's the same process. We're still checking the foundation, we're still checking the heating, plumbing, HVAC. So there's probably the only difference is just it's higher in pricing just because typically commercial buildings are obviously larger than a residential house, but the process doesn't change anything.
So that's how you charge. The larger the house, the more you charge.
Yeah, that how far it is, if it's a multifamily residential, yeah, there's a couple factors.
Interesting. How has the inspection business changed since you first started?
I would say more people are finding out about it, which is great, you know. I feel like there's been a lot more home inspectors popping up, whether it's a realtor's family member, their spouse wants to get licensed, or project managers, people converting from the construction industry. It's becoming more popular, I feel like.
It's becoming more and more known, which is good.
And it's becoming a little more advanced too, because majority of home inspectors for quite some time have been older people who have retired from from what they were doing prior, and that's kind of like their retirement, like extra money in a sense. But now it's like you have the young up and coming guys that are doing this full time, and women too.
Oh, is it mostly a male dominated?
Mostly, yeah.
Why?
That's I don't have that answer, and I feel like anything I would say would not be the right answer because I'm not in that position. I don't know. Maybe it has to do with construction in a sense where, because even the construction industry, that's more of a male, dominant industry.
Well, it's a very physical job. And
Yes,
are construction workers transferring to inspectors? Is that a common theme? A common
I
thing?
I wish it was more common, but no, there's people who are firefighters that do it, or I see what's very common. Cops do it. Firefighters do it on the side. Teachers do it on nights and weekends. It varies.
It makes a good part-time job too.
Yes. Yeah.
But I'm sure that if you're working at full time, you're gonna get a lot more business. Just like
Of
real estate,
course.
like some people say that, I've even heard some people say like don't even do real estate part time because, and I don't fully agree with that, but obviously the part timers won't be able to compete fully with the
Of
full
course.
timers.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for new inspectors?
Yes. This is the most important tip. Educate yourself. Do not rush. Like just because you're licensed, that doesn't mean that you're ready. Like when I was taking the course and I passed my test and I got licensed, I was still shadowing other home inspectors even though on paper I had all the qualifications, but I just I wanted to take it a step further because in this business, if you don't know what you're talking about or you make a mistake that's at your client's expense, it is very hard to build like a strong brand. So just keep training and keep learning. Never stop.
Mike, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Instagram at hyper-focused home inspections. The same thing with Facebook and YouTube. So anything that's hyper focused, you can look me up. Um, I would say if you're looking to book a home inspection or a mold assessment, you can go on my website at hyperfocusedhomeinspections.com. If you're interested in getting into the business, you could drop me a message on Instagram, on Facebook, and yeah, that's how you can find me.
I'll put all your links below. Mike, it was great talking to you, man.
Thank you so much for everything. I really
Have a good one,
appreciate it.
boss. Take care, man.
No problem.